and welcome to System.debug. We are your hosts, Megan Broadkey, Megan SF. Hi, everybody.
And I'm Nate Pepper. May the S-Force be with you. How you folks doing?
Is that like an Ewok dance?
It is an Ewok dance. I actually just found an Ewok versus Jar Jar Binks Marie Kondo meme yesterday. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Ewoks. I think I hit a soft spot on some Jar Jar, Team Jar Jar people in my circle of friends. But that's okay.
So
that's okay.
I don't think there is anything called Team Jar Jar, to tell you the truth.
But there is something called Team Underscore, which Meg is a part of. Remember right? This one brings joy. No underscores in API name.
Field names have freaking underscores. I'm sorry, dude, they do. If you are calling it a name, like opportunity for partners, it should say opportunity underscore for underscore partners, not opportunity for partners all smushy, smushed.
Yeah. That does reduce the need to capitalize the F in the API label, right? Yeah,
well, that would be grammatically
Anyways, well,
incorrect
today,
anyway. Yeah, what up?
What makes today different than all other days, Megan?
Well, it's a Monday. That happens every week, but there's something about today in the show. Oh, we got a guest.
Hello. How's it going, guys?
Hey, what up, dude?
Hey there.
You are.
Need to move my hand slower. Otherwise, like the background is going to be too wishy-washy.
Oh, look at that. I'm the only one without a fake background. Welcome, Johannes.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. It's great being here.
It is so great to have you here.
Happy Monday.
Monday. Happy.
I'll buy that for $1. I would say happy Monday. Yes, happy Monday. My time is all logged today.
You know what? My time is half logged today. I'm going for 2 perfect weeks of time logging. Mr. Jim Ray would be so proud of me. So would Dale. Pop staff. 2 perfect weeks. We're doing it. We're doing it, which means I am getting my time in every day instead of like one piled in day. We're doing it. Perfect week. Number 2. Here
so
we
Megan,
go.
Why don't you introduce Johannes a little for us and kind of like maybe where you guys met and a little bit of maybe hand it off to him.
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about my good friend Johannes here. So I was chilling and hanging out on the Vancouver user group, and I started chatting it up, and I was sucking it up. Was talking to Alex, and all of a sudden, Johannes and I became BFF. So Johannes is working on this cool project that has to do with logging, and it's a really sweet open source project. So first we started talking about the logger, then we started talking about open source, then we started talking about system.debug.
Yes,
so we started talking about these upcoming presentations that he has coming, and oh my gosh, next thing I knew, we were chatting up like crazy on the Twitters. Yeah, dude, we were fast friends. Yeah.
Alex made the introduction, like big shout out at this point, and then we just took it from there basically. And then you also presented at the Calgary user group, which was a lot of fun. That was awesome.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
Props to Jordan there.
Yeah. And we just continued the conversations, and we just also shared some joy around like community deployments recently, and had some fun with that. And shared
Summer 20
a little bit our experiences. I jinxed your project.
You did no such thing. No such. It would have happened either way. I do not blame you in any way, shape, or form. But why don't you give us a little bit of a background about who you are and what you are currently doing?
Yeah, happy to. So born and raised in Germany, like in case someone picks up the accent. But been living in Canada, in beautiful Alberta, for the last 15 plus years. And live here with my beautiful wife and daughter, and basically started out my professional career here as well. Did the standard comp-sci type of degree back in Germany, came over here and started as a software developer for a company that was working in the contact center space. And so we were developing CTI adapters or software applications that agents are using in order to handle phone calls, emails, and all those real-time interactions in contact centers. And integration in that environment is a very big part of the development that you're doing, because obviously it's great to have like the phone controls, but ultimately agents do work with other applications. And so eventually we were looking into finding kick-ass demo scenarios and demo integrations. And Salesforce was obviously a prime candidate at the time because of its cloud platform. And even like now we're on Lightning, but that was in 2007-8 when the classic interface was there, just around the time when the console interface came out, the classic console. And obviously that was already pretty slick in comparison to what was out on the market. So it was an excellent opportunity to kind of like do a little demo and prototype something out. And I started like developing against the Salesforce APIs and kind of like the application. So eventually like continued with the CTI development side there, and then was fortunate enough to be allowed the opportunity to also work on some app exchange packages and dive really into the Force.com platform. And that was kind of like how I really landed in the ecosystem. And then, yeah, what happened then? Like I worked on some ISV apps like for a while, took a little bit of a break from Salesforce for a couple of years to explore some other cloud technologies. And then eventually, but I never really I always kept the interest and stayed up to date. And then an opportunity came up to go back into a consulting role at that time. And so for the last, how many years is it now? Close to 5 years, I've been doing consulting on the Salesforce side and having a lot of fun with that.
Very cool. So Nate, you want to dig into a bit about his past experience?
Yeah, so I'm curious to give us a timeline. When did you move over from Germany, and then when, like year-wise, and then when was the first year you like logged into Salesforce, essentially, if you remember?
So I think the two stages to me moving over. I kind of came here first on as part of my degree for an internship in 2005 is when I first touched ground in Calgary. And then, but permanently living here since 2007. And I think I started like touching the ecosystem in 2008, later in the year. I wouldn't be able to pinpoint it exactly, but it was around 2008, 2009, early 2009.
And you were looking into contact center stuff then, right? It's not like you were just making custom fields and yeah.
No, that was
so you've made a
integration. It's all about fancy real-time screen pops, orchestration, API integration a lot. So like we customized a lot out of the classic Salesforce console JavaScript API. I don't know if anyone remembers that thing or ever worked with it. Because it wasn't used very much. Awesome. Well, that's great to see because I didn't hear of a lot of people that actually used the console JavaScript APIs to customize functionality out of it. And I had a lot of fun developing with that in the OpenCTI toolkit when it came out.
So,
oh my God, getting sub-tab ideas just gives me a headache. Sorry, go Meg. Oh yeah, get sub-tab ID. Oh yes.
I know.
So one thing I know that both you and I have been working with a bit is the Experience Bundle API. For those of you that don't know what the Experience Bundle API is, so with a community, you can deploy it 2 different ways. You can deploy with the network, the custom site, and the site.com, or you can deploy with your network, your custom site, and the Experience Bundle. The experience bundle needs to be turned on in your community settings. Once enabled, you're then able to deploy. It has to be out of both your target and your source. Just went GA back in the spring. Tell us about your experience. How is it going for you? Tell us about some pros and cons. What's up?
Well, yeah, it's been I like this. So first of all, I like the experience bundle API. I think from a version control management side of things, it's been really great to like identify the smaller changes in the community instead of like having a big blob where you really don't know what changed. And especially when you consider version management as part of like a trace or an audit of the changes that go into your environment. That's
really quick, if you want to pause. For those of you that don't know,
critical.
That site.com file was a binary file. You couldn't see anything in it. Your experience bundle actually lets you know what components are being used within your community, what the property settings are for them, what the branding is within your community.
Yeah.
When it comes to source control, it's like a gold mine for actual source for your community.
And
that was actually deploying versus what is in the file, two different things. Not everything in the file actually deploys and sets those settings as a heads up.
On that note, Johannes, what's been your experience since you came from a software development background out of college, and you were no stranger to version control probably when you walked out of college, right? What has been your experience with using version control as a backup versus version control as a build tool, right? I mean, was that essentially a backup in the beginning? Did it get a while until you got to
whoa, who's ever saying version control's a backup, dude? Who's saying your source isn't your truth?
I've worked at a couple of shops that, you know, they do that almost as a code audit trail and a way to search through things, et cetera, right? Which can kind of be what Experience Bundle is when it's problematic to deploy, right? It's still beneficial.
We were just talking about this before the call. Go for it. You go for it, dude. You go for it.
So like, no, I've used version control always for deployments, like NCI tools, especially as part of ISV. It's an essential element of the development process all the way through. And just because of my like more traditional Salesforce traditional development background, I've been using it in projects in the same fashion wherever I can, and it's kind of really getting established as a standard in the industry, which is great to see. And obviously the latest tool set, Salesforce DX, the CLI, are amazing support because they take a lot of the work away from it. Still a lot of work though, I have to say. Like it's even just doing it with the scratch orgs and all the fun pieces side of things. I mean, and orchestrating some of those deployment components getting those details right. It takes a lot of time to get set up, but once it works, it's beautiful.
Is your source your truth?
Yeah, for sure. Like,
I got a question since
with an asterisk attached to it. I think as you work through different environments, depending on the tools that you have available, and the kind of solution that is built for customers, you should never be. I'm not hardcore and say it has to be the source of truth for everything. It should be, but exceptions are also just confirming the rule, and they are just applied like sometimes a little bit more frequently than you want to, but you know, it happens. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, big fan. Like also new stuff here. DevOps Center is going to be amazing. That's a big good.
DevOps Center looks so cool.
Yeah,
so cool. I can't wait. I want to play with it. I downloaded like everything I could of the Salesforce stuff into my VS Code, and I just need like some time.
I've actually like a month or so ago, I downloaded VS Code Insiders, which is the nightly sort of like the alpha or beta build. Because machine sync, like setting sync, is available there and not GA yet for VS Code. And was it one day my MacBook Pro just kind of took a dive, and I had to take the MacBook Air back from my daughter, and I went, oh, where are all my like plugins and my settings and the indent, all my VS Code snippets, right? But so the fact that is in at least the alpha build is hope that they're going to have that in VS workspaces sooner than later, when all that rolls out. That looks amazing. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
you know what I want to try? This new change tracking in sandboxes.
Yes, 100% agree. That actually makes me more excited than the DevOps Center, to be honest. It's just too bad that it's not out until probably winter when they're GAing it.
But it's in a beta.
Yeah.
You can beta it or pilot, one of the two.
I thought it was a pilot or it was a beta. I would have to check.
One of the two. So yeah. I know somebody that's got it turned on.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's
I have so many questions. And I have a feeling
change tracking in sandboxes. What's that, Bob? Tell us more.
Well, by God, let me tell you, Sandy.
Yeah, what is this?
So over here in the Michigan area, which you can see on the frontal coast. So what's going on is you can actually have your sandbox track your meta changes, not like a setup audit trail, but like source tracking changes.
Just imagine the same like Scratch orgs, you make modifications, especially through declarative tools, and you don't have to guess anymore what changed or do a full-blown massive entire org data like metadata download, and then hope that Git is going to able to process the changes from the files. Because most often it works, but there's always moments when Git then just kind of like always shows you a diff that is the entire file instead of the other.
You mean if I push something
in an XML file diff? Like, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, you changed the pick list value. Your object's different. Like everything from a compact layout to a validation rule to every single field. All because you changed this one pick list value.
Does that mean that we're going to be able to see, like, if we do something that's not a change set, we're actually going to see what files were changed in a deploy instead of just 71, like 71 what went, like, did this file get right? Because that's the problem without change sets, is you can't see the source, but then you also can't even see what components were touched, right? I think that's mind-blowing. Wow. That you can't see that in the org, but that'll help you resolve that issue, right, with sandboxes.
You're audio centric, but your video is so far behind, Nathan. But
I'm on palm tree time.
yeah, it's going to track all your changes, your declarative and code changes.
And I think the key part around it is going to track profile changes, especially the implicit ones, like add a new class and those tiny little snippets. I don't know how many times like you miss them and then have to kind of remember.
So that's what I like about GearSet, is GearSet just reminds me, don't forget to add these.
Yeah.
Like, props to GearSet, fantabulous tool. Totally awesome deployment option.
That's a context when I've also seen people use repositories as backup tools. Like if they're using GearSet, they're using GearSets for the deployment and then like deploy to repository just for backup purposes.
If you're not pulling your deployment out of your repo to deploy to all your higher orgs, you are just causing yourself a headache in the future. You can't deploy. So I'm all about, I'll validate out of my org before I deploy to the repo, because there's nothing worse than deploying to the repo 16 times while you have to validate, because you validate after. I'll validate, deploy to the repo, deploy to the org from the repo. Because it's just easier that way to validate first. Validator. I'm pretty sure everyone does it that way. Otherwise, if you're not, dude, I don't know how many times you must be like deploying before you validate, but save yourself the trouble. But anyway, yeah, so just so much easier that way. But if you're not pulling out of that repo, if that repo is where you go from to go to production or to go to like UAC or to go to integration, I bet you just caused yourself a lot of changes or a lot of headaches that you didn't have to have. Just pull from source, like source.
So
It's
Johannes, since we're
logical.
talking about the deploy successes and pains, why don't you pick, so in SFDX specific, right? No like ant history or change sets. SFDX, what's one sticky point, I guess, right, for you when deploying with SFDX and not developing, right? Deploying with SFDX for communities, and then one that's like not community specific, just kind of in general, I guess, like one pain point on each side of the fence.
So the one thing about, so the deployment of SFDX, like I haven't done on the community side yet too much, more of like used it more for my internal projects. For the community ones, I'm still mostly based for legacy reasons, use the ant build script. But like what I like in SFDX is the new command that was just recently added around publishing the communities now from the command line, which is amazing.
Yes.
Saves another big step, manual step that you need to manage from an overall deployment perspective, especially when you go to prod. And I don't know, like how many times I just started, why is this not here? I just made this change. Why does it? Oh, right, I gotta publish. Happened way too often. On the regular side of things, like I mean, besides the standard tracking of the changes, which is obviously like a key piece, and I like also the modified metadata format that they have there. It's definitely cleaner, especially when it comes around objects. But the one thing I started like playing with recently and really slowly get the hang of it is the unlock package creation and management around it. And that actually is a lot of fun. And as I'm getting more used to it, I really see the potential of like orchestrating your orgs in the future a lot more through packages than it is through full-blown metadata deployments, which has some really interesting aspects, especially around version and dependency management for larger organizations.
Tell me more.
Come to the 2GP side.
What do you want to? Yeah, no, I mean, talking about open source projects, right? I've led the library that I wrote over the last few months to do primarily logging and a little bit of some other stuff, such as like feature switches and trigger frameworks. That is all currently distributed via an unlock package, and especially like the Salesforce CLI allows you to completely orchestrate all of that. So taking my earlier comment, like it takes a little bit time to get all the nitty-gritty little bits sorted out, but when you go in and have like a real build script going, you can fully automate like your entire delivery process. And that's a lot of fun. Like, yeah, I have one build script command, and then the script runs me through like, okay, what version number do I want to create? It creates the package, it deploys it, it publishes it, then installs it afterwards into a Scratch org and runs a final validation on the whole thing. And I just sit there and watch it all.
Cool.
Wow, even publishes a new beta, installs it in a new test org to see the install with data enough to see what you're working with, right?
Exactly. Yeah. At least run like make sure that the packaging process didn't break anything, and look then at like are the unit tests at the very least the unit test still passing, and then obviously you can expand on it as well and add more tests. And like the CLI has so many tools like with the individual commands to support that. That's really like a fantastic support that speeds up things a lot.
So tell us more about the open source projects that you have going on right now.
Yeah, so I've been obviously like around in the Salesforce ecosystem for quite a while, and always have been doing a lot of work with JavaScript. In the earlier days, like when we're talking about Visual Force pages in the classic console, and now obviously Aura and Lightning. And as the coming from a background as well of single page, like more modern JavaScript applications, there's a lot of business logic that's sitting in JavaScript these days, and more so on the Salesforce side as well, where organizations build like components, applications, etc., that have very little Apex code and more pure JavaScript modules or Aura components. So the problem that it brings is that if anything goes wrong, which, when you do software development and implementations, stuff happens once in a while, like every new moon, a bug occurs, and then you need to debug it. And the problem with the JavaScript side is like you're running blind. In Apex, you have like the debug logs that you can enable. It gives you great level of details, but even there, like you have to like enable them first before you get details. And on the JavaScript side, you have the console of the browser, so you need to actually go into someone's environment, like screen share, and then ask them to kind of like open up a developer console and do that with regular users. That's always a very, very entertaining journey for both parties involved. And so what happens is that, like, I was looking for a set of tools that we developed like way in the past, back in my earlier days, for one of our software applications that was also heavily browser-based and JavaScript-based, to do ongoing recording of log statements. And then in case it detects that there's an issue, like an error log statement is being logged, to publish that and make that accessible in the log files. And that's exactly what I've done for Salesforce. So if you're using the logging framework, you just, log in JavaScript the way how you would do it in Apex, either like when you use to system.debug in, pun intended, in Apex. In Apex, like it's kind of like the same concept that you have your log statements that you put into your JavaScript code. And if there's an error, like it will send out a request to the server, with not just one like statement saying like, oh my God, I just caught an error, but with a stack of log statements that were recorded before. And then so you see like the history of maybe up to 100 log statements that tell you what exactly was happening in the browser at the time when the user like experienced the issue. And not that you have to turn this on, it's running all the time. It's like active monitoring 24/7, and then only reports in error scenarios. And then that eventually ends up in like a tiny little dashboard tool that comes with the application or with the repo, where you can get live streams and events showing up of any kind of failure events, and then you can start investigating.
Nice. And we're going to have that link in the description so people can check it out.
That sounds like a next episode.
Yeah, dude, right?
Is that, you know what, I'm going to, yeah, it's funny, I'm teaching my daughter screen editing, and we just found a feature, or I was paying attention, just found a feature where you can like constantly loop, like you can record X amount of minutes. So like record 3 minutes, and then when you hit 3 minutes, delete what you had recorded and start again. Because like when you're trying to film an intermittent failure, right? And you're like, well, it's gonna happen, I'm just gonna put this on. Is that what that's like? Like it'll throw away things if it doesn't run into an error, or no? When it hits an error, it logs it and saves it to like an S object, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's like happy path, like who cares, right? I don't need to know what my 500 users are doing, if everyone is happy and stuff works as designed. But I get a phone call or an email if things doesn't work, and then people watching over my shoulder. And
that's great. Wow.
And the thing is that the whole purpose of it is like not to run blind and get the visibility, because that's how you instill trust into your users as well. Not only that you deliver functionality, but you're able to support it. And that has been more challenging in the past, and this library hopefully should make it easier. Works the same way on the Apex side too. So you have the Apex logs running ongoingly, and it just reports in the same location. So you don't have to go in and like turn on debug logs anymore after someone reports an issue. You may even already know, depending on what notifications you set up, like that the issue occurred before the user even sends a ticket.
Dude, that's way cool.
It's a very techie topic. It's one that I find extremely valuable, and the sad part is it's always a hard sell from a business and budget and priority perspective. Reality is though that based on my experience, I think a tool like this can easily get your ROI for the initial investment on getting it set or maintaining it ongoingly in the sense of like writing log statements, etc. in no time. Like it's like we're talking here low number of weeks or months, and you should be in the green from the time savings that you have, that your team doesn't have to like go through elaborate processes anymore to
especially with client side things that aren't necessarily surfaced in unit tests, that it's hard to reach without actual, you know, not even power users, right? You're tapping into any user that if it's there. Wow. Well, so to kind of wrap down from that Adult Swim moment,
dude, and that's entirely
awesomeness.
like episode worthy, man, like in and of itself.
Total episode, which is related to some other things that could be a whole episodes, like you know, Apex, like logging, just like Apex logging, right? Like having an S object that does that sort of thing. I mean, I think it should almost be something that you flip on, but I'm sure somebody, you know, has a package out there if you pay them enough for it. So two closing question to kind of zoom out and lighten it up before we start closing up.
Like Jeopardy question?
No, Likert scale questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the phone book and 10 being your favorite concert t-shirt, how much do you miss Visual Force remoting?
So how much do I miss it? Like I don't miss it at all, because it was a source of a little bit of grief, especially from an ISV package perspective, when you develop in a non-namespace org and then eventually deploy to a namespace. So there were some challenges around that in the past. I mean, the concept itself, loved it. I used it all the time. Any Visual Force page, like not any, but most Visual Force pages that I wrote, even back in the days, used remoting over the standard Visual Force actions in order to communicate with the server, because it was just more lightweight. I felt more comfortable with it, I guess. That's that too.
Had to deal less with order of operations on VF functions, like by doing async, right? Yeah. So like when it came out, how much was it like, oh my god, it was, you know, 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 10, 1 being 10 being like, oh my god, this is better than dot sort.
Oh, for which one? Sorry, like
the VF remoting, like, because you remember when that came out.
Remoting came out. Yeah, no, that was exciting. It was there when I started, so it must have, maybe it came to like before, just so like I didn't learn Salesforce without it. So that was kind of like my initial steps, but I can imagine that it was a big step forward when you were bound to the command action buttons and all those sorts of things.
Right. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you miss the left sidebar?
Everybody misses the left sidebar.
Or what's the most interesting thing you've done with the left sidebar?
For the left sidebar in Classic, like that would be the CTI integration, because nice. Like we needed to create it in a way that like it wouldn't constantly refresh, because that was a very processing heavy, intense effort, and very bad for the user experience, because you're on a call with a customer, while the voice channel wouldn't be interrupted, your phone controls would be interrupted with every page refresh in the Classic interface. So what we came up with is using the CTI placeholder there as a bridge that had actually no user interface available to it, and then popped out a new softphone window, and then created a communication process between those two windows via JavaScript and events, window events, in order to get the OpenCTI calls dispatched and the invocations done, and figure that part out. So that was super exciting. Actually, that was fun development. I'm a geek, so
jeez. I couldn't get a 5.9 CTI working in 2010, but I did get a Rickroll going on the left sidebar. That's about as fancy as I got.
So don't miss it, but it wasn't all bad.
I think Johannes
has a
wore it better.
scrolling Megan rocks. That's all mine has.
with blinking GIF with CSS, right?
No, it's
Yeah,
just the scrolling, like like how they have at the gas station, and it changes colors and text.
Maybe that's how
It was one of
kiddies
the
were
first
invented.
things I
Like
did in
Megan put her own
development.
pictures in there.
It was like the first step thing I did. It was in like the Visual Force book. So I just may or may not have taken some liberties with the text. So all right,
So
everybody.
Johannes, is there any shouts out you want to give to like your local groups or any events the virtual events of going on, etc.?
Happy to.
Yeah.
First of all, again, big shout out to Alex, like for connecting us and like definitely helping me and being a big supporter also in the journey here with the RFlip library. And then Jordan, like as the Calgary community leader, so that's great. It's a heavily appreciated job that he's doing as well. And then just thank you guys for all the work that you're doing as well. Like, I mean, from a podcast perspective, it's a lot of work.
Oh, what about that wife and daughter? They gave you time to be on the podcast with your vacation. Yeah.
They are super supportive. There is no question about it. Like my wife obviously supports my extra hours that I spend on top of a demanding job to let me play with certain things. And I'm supporting her project as well. I'm IT person in the household and developer for her website. So that's all good.
Nice.
And the little one doesn't get to see the evening hours too much. She's in bed usually when I do the actual work, but has to sometimes give up on the weekends as well. So that's great.
Oh, so you aren't spending like 20+ hours on screen time management at this age, at the kid's age?
No, I have an 8-year-old, so it's still pretty well maintained, and she loves the outdoors. So she kind of migrates to that automatically. She has opportunities to play outside. She often does it.
Nice.
Makes me happy.
Good.
Awesome.
Good. Yay. Well, Megs, any announcements, stuff coming up, virtual thingamabobs?
Yeah. So look for community cloud specialist as an announcement. So if anybody's a community cloud person, please contact me. Other announcements. Events have gone virtual. Yeah. I do have a road to CTA sharing my experience on the certification exams, failure, passing, preparation, the 22nd this week. Register, join us. It'll be a lot of fun. And that's all I've got going on. What about you, Nate? NA8.
There will be code. There will be lots of code. It may not always deploy. I've just been total heads down. Although in over the last 2 weeks, our team and internal, kind of like our team, but also just the internal, like across the board, have really started nailing down packaging and 2GP and SFDX so that like you just spin it up. And so I don't know what events are going on, but
there are really many events.
I know, but we are gonna. What was it this week? I'm attending the user group thingamabob this week. There's a user group leader meeting, we
went on certifications.
Yeah, I mean now that no one's really leaving their property most days. Gonna try to reboot the LA developer group and help coordinate that with the other Southern California groups to just start getting people to, get off the beach, go home, log in and zoom it up with us.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, a new Seattle Women in Tech event coming soon, virtual happy hour. And major props to the latest Meredith Community Cloud class. Way to go, y'all. Congratulations on getting through that class. And if anyone needs help studying for your certification, please do let me know. Y'all did fabulous work. And congratulations. Just great work. Everybody did great efforts. So thank you all for your participation and being amazing. Yeah. And thank you to Kate and Hector for all the hard work that you do with Meredith. You are amazing people, as is everyone else that has volunteered as a coach, that's volunteered as an instructor, and that is just a member of the staff. You're amazing people. Thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your energy. Thank you. Yeah. That's
And
it.
thank you, Johannes, for joining us today.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for having me.
Johannes.
This was great.
You got it.
Yeah.
Like 2 hands in the air day, because seems to be one of those days.
You got to test the Zoom background. Right? Like, how close do I need to get?
Hearing hands. Magic.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and follow me on Twitter, Megan SF. That's MEIGHAN SF. And then you have Nathan.
S Force be with you. SFORCEBEWITHYOU.
And don't
On the
forget the
Twitters.
infamous, and don't forget our other host, the infamous RJ, and then our originals, Life with Ryan. And then there is also US Brian 24. And then Johannes, what's your Twitters?
It's J_H_Fischer.
Follow. It'll be awesome. And then we'll get your GitHub up there. We'll get any of your other contact information. We'll get you all sorts of new followers to BFS. It'll be fantastic.
Yes,
All right.
that would be great.
Peace
Cheers,
out,
guys.
Until
everybody.
then, folks, don't forget to console.log and system.debug. Cheers, guys.